We will move on to our next presenter now. Ranyah Salous will come and talk to us on analytics and consulting within the public sector. Quick intro on Ranyah. She is the director now of AI, Intelligent Automation, and Advanced Analytics at Guidehouse, one of today's sponsors. So please give Ranyah a warm welcome.
Do I get the clicker?
Yes.
Okay, I get the clicker. Nice. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for having me today. I'm really excited to talk about the illustrious career of consulting and what that means in the public sector. So as many of you might be local or semi-local, Washington, D.C. is not too far away, home of many of our government agencies that we support, both federal, state, and local, and even county related. What does that mean? That means that there's ample opportunities in the world of consulting and otherwise to support these agencies. So I know a lot of you may be looking for what's next after your graduate program, or if you're still in an undergraduate program. And there's many, many opportunities not too far away from here. So I'll be talking a bit about what that means in the realm of analytics, AI, and automation. And share some examples of actual solutions that we do implement for the government. I'll first share a little bit about Guidehouse, the company I work for. So originally when I joined Guidehouse, we were part of PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is PwC. I'm sure many of you know that consulting company. And then we branched off the public sector side of the business and rebranded as Guidehouse. When I first joined the firm, we had roughly about 2,000 employees because it was just PwC's public sector. We now have close to 15,000 employees, and that's in just the last 3 years. So that's how much opportunity that really exists not too far away. We are a global company, so we do have offices and employees all around the world. So even if you're not local to this area, there are ample opportunities depending on your location. So I'm going to be talking a bit about analytics, AI, and automation, as I mentioned. So anybody want to share anything that comes to mind when they think of any of these types of things or how it relates to your graduate program? I know I already have some ideas up there. No? All right. Yes, absolutely. How do we visualize the data that we're collecting, right? So we might be doing analysis and cleansing of the data, but now I want to drive meaningful insights. How do I do that? You could do that through Power BI. You can do that through Tableau. There's an ample amount of tools that you can leverage. Anybody else? Okay. All right, well, I'll share some of the different capabilities. I'm not pressing this hard enough. Is it me? Is it an operator error? Let me see. It's just this, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm clicking it here. Oh, there we go. Watch it go 4 slides now. So I'm not going to read all of these verbatim, but I'm going to talk about some of the key capabilities that my team directly supports. So I personally lead our intelligent automation part of our practice, but a lot of that does involve the analytics component, and I work very closely with a lot of our AI leaders as well. But what are some of the types of things that we do? Data analytics and advanced visualization. Essentially, this is us combining statistical modeling as data scientists, data mining, and domain expertise to create meaningful insights to help drive decisions within organizations. So this is an opportunity for you to use a lot of the analytics experience that you gain through your graduate program to actually help companies and agencies make decisions on how they move forward in their business. I know I'm always excited to see when we actually see our clients leveraging the solutions we build and how it can impact downstream to everyday employees' day-to-day interactions and how they decide to move forward in business. It's extremely rewarding. Geospatial analytics is very similar, except now we're adding a little bit of a GIS component to this. Oftentimes you find this have a more complete picture using maps or graphical networks, things of that nature. So sometimes when you see different maps with data that's depicted, it just gives a more complete picture depending on the solution that you're trying to provide. I'll jump down to talk a little bit about RPA, which is robotic process automation and automation in general. So this is a really buzzing thing in the industry. It's not brand new. Process automation has been around forever, but the marketing has released something called robotic process automation in the last several years. And this is still an emerging technology for the government, not for the rest of the companies, but a lot of times for the government. And it's really cool because just like regular process automation, you use software to automate end-to-end processes that people do every day. So think of like a macro in Excel, but across systems and applications. So when we think about the government, a lot of times they have legacy applications, things that are outdated and old. And it's really hard for us to get the information that we need from those systems to communicate with other systems. So by using RPA, robotic process automation, we can then, just like a human would, leverage the GUI, or what we would call a user interface, and access the front end of all of these different systems and still perform the solution that we wanted to do without having to integrate from the back end. So it's definitely something that we've seen a lot of government agencies promoting in the last few years. And I'll do a couple more, machine learning and AI. I know Sam was sharing some great uses for natural language processing. That is under that umbrella. Generally speaking, this is also a really exciting field to be promoting. How do we use data and how do we use machines to help predict outcomes and help identify anomalies or fraud detection? All really exciting work. And then one more I'll highlight, and I know most of you know cloud, which is not necessarily data, but there's a lot of SaaS offerings in cloud, but it's data engineering. And before we're able to really even build a lot of the analytics and a lot of the reporting and a lot of the insights that we want our clients to have, first we need the data. And what happens if we don't have a place to already house the data, or where the data is being housed is not very efficient? So oftentimes before we can even begin the analytics piece, we need to begin the ETL process. How do we extract, transform, and load our data using several new technologies? It could be Databricks platforms, it could be other types of Azure, whatever it is that you're using. But this is definitely an upcoming need. I mean, I know I'm constantly recruiting for this all of the time. So when you start to think about where should I be focusing some of my experience and how can I decide what technologies I want to maybe pinpoint on, I would highly recommend looking into the data engineering capability. All right, which leads me to my other point, which is technology agnostic approach. Most consulting most consulting firms do not just say, I only do Tableau, I only do Power BI, I only do AWS. That would be very limiting. The idea is we want to be able to expand our presence as much as possible. And oftentimes we promote that through an agnostic approach. So what does that mean? That means that in your graduate program, you may have learned a certain set of tools, but don't limit yourself there. The great thing is that usually is very similar to adopting other tools that are doing the same thing. So if you know Power BI, it's going to be pretty easy for you to know Tableau. The one thing in consulting I will say is you're constantly learning. You're constantly expanding your skill set. You're constantly upskilling and doing certifications. And I don't know about you, but for me, that's exciting. I don't ever want to get bored with what I'm doing. I don't want to become stagnant. I don't want to be doing the same thing for 10 years, 15 years. I don't want to be doing the same thing for 3 years. I like to keep myself constantly engaged, constantly on the cutting edge. And the great thing about consulting is you're often working with different clients, different problems, different challenges, and different technologies. So don't worry if, some of the tools you see here are not necessarily aligned to your background. There's so many opportunities within a consulting firm to get the training needed and become more agnostic in your technology stack. All right, so now I'm going to talk about a couple use cases that we've actually implemented for federal agencies. The first one is around unsupervised learning to determine security case complexity. So if you decide to ever work or support a federal agency, you'll have to go most likely through a security clearance process. What that means is they want to make sure that you're not a threat to the government or the information that you're receiving depending on the project you're supporting. And so think about all of the different agencies and how many security clearances they have to provide for all of the people that touch their systems and their information. Their backlog is intense. It's an immense amount of information that they have to process. And so what we've done is we've built a solution that actually helps using unsupervised machine learning is to first, it's a bunch of papers that come in and say, okay, I got to fill out this about myself. So first we use optical character recognition to extract the data from the physical paper. So these are scanned images. And so that's not structured data in the world of, data. So we have to use optical character recognition, which is AI-based. It extracts the data and makes it structured. We then load that data into an S3 bucket or any type of storage that you want. And then we have these models actually take that information and provide a score of confidence. And what this says is, this person may be a risk. You need to take more look into their application and their submission and find out what the issue may be. Or here are some anomalies with this person's application they submitted for a security clearance. You need to divert more of your energy into this. Or this one meets all of the conditions that we would expect. Let's move it to the next stage. So it really has allowed this specific agency and a couple others that we've done this for to get through their backlog and to start processing clearances faster. And similar things are also being done now for how they process US citizenship and other types of case management systems. So I always thought this one was pretty cool, just because I know I always have to go through the security process every time I work for an agency, and I like that we're trying to do things to optimize that experience. All right. See, I just got to give it a smack. So I'll lightly touch about this, but there's actually one other one I wanted to talk about. So this, for health data, well, this was an agency, but it was really, they had a bunch of IT departments across the US, and they just weren't communicating together. They were doing things differently. So a lot of times what you'll find in consulting is we'll go in and do a current landscape assessment. And we'll actually work with all of the different departments and try to identify where there's inefficiencies in the way that they're doing things and how do we create a roadmap to modernization. So in this use case, we did a requirements analysis and we created a roadmap to say, okay, you have 56 plus different IT data departments doing things differently across the US. Let's try to standardize this. Let's try to move towards one integrated approach towards data modernization. And let's build some analytics on top of that to drive that decision making. So a lot of times we'll do the analysis, but then we'll also find ways to use the data so that they can better make decisions going forward on how they move towards modernization. One other use case I'll talk about is during COVID, I know many of you are probably aware of the Small Business Administration, so a lot of small businesses needed relief. And through that relief, they had to submit applications to see if they can qualify for support during the pandemic. And so we also, similar to the other solution, built something to help them process over 12 million loan submissions. And so as they were receiving, thousands and thousands of loans on a daily basis, this helped people get those awards granted more quickly and the support that they needed using a combination of optical character recognition, AI, and automation. All right, so intelligent automation. So this is where I started out. So this one's a little bit, close to home for me. But one of the great things about it is when you're still early on in your career, you might find, okay, I really want to get really deep into data science and AI and machine learning, but I want to kind of get my feet wet a bit in consulting first. And automation is a great way to do that because it's more if-then statements, it's more defined, and you're dealing with structured data. So a lot of times what we do is we'll identify use cases with clients where they just need day-to-day processes automated. But then the great thing about it is we'll say, all right, where are there opportunities for us to make this a more intelligent solution? Now that I know that you have this structured data, but we're not working with this data because it's unstructured, how do I use AI and machine learning and other capabilities to be able to expand and scale my solution so that it's more intelligent in nature? This can be using text classification for machine learning, sentiment analysis. For AI, we talked about using optical character recognition to decipher text from images. You can also create intelligent chatbots. I always love building chatbots for clients because they think it's like the coolest thing. I'm like, this has been around forever, but when they see it on their platform, in their agency, or within their organization, it's still really cool for them. All right, one demo I'm actually going to see if it will play on here that I'll show is one of the things I've seen that's really getting a lot of traction is low-code solutions, low-code, no-code solutions. So there are a lot of SaaS platforms out there and other types of platforms such as Microsoft Power Platform, ServiceNow, Salesforce. They all have a huge stake in the market right now. And one of the great things about it is you get to build some of these very complex and intelligent solutions very quickly because they're low code, meaning they already have a lot of the code built out for you. It's just a matter of configuration and customization. And so what I'm about to show you is a demonstration of a solution that we built in a matter of a couple weeks. It was a small team, and they essentially built a project management tool to help track the way projects are progressing and staffing is progressing across the world, really. And then how do we build visualization on top of that for them to be able to better make decisions on where they need to identify inefficiencies in the way that projects are being managed. So see if it'll play. Okay. I don't know. Is there like, if I press the center, do you think it'll play it? No, that's just going to be a point. I don't know, maybe it won't play. Did it go? Maybe do I do it? China? Yeah, you do it. I'm in tech, folks. All right. Oh, you know what? Yeah, it is going. It's because this one has a voice track. So yeah, I'll let it. Okay, so this is an example of the project tracker that we built. As you can see, and you can't really see it that well, but there's like some, there was some depiction of like where there were projects that are being tracked. This is the intake form, and this is the analytics that are being produced from that intake form. So essentially what it is we created a low-code application for them to enter in their project information. So rather than using Excel or other tools to manage it that are separate, they use one centralized application to enter in all their project tracking. That allows us to then be able to create the analytics. So you have one intake form, one backend that's collecting all of your data, and then a bunch of analytics that can be driven off of that data. As I mentioned, if you built this custom without any SaaS offering or without a platform at all, I mean, it probably would have taken a large team months to build, but because in this case we used the Microsoft Power Platform, it took a small team a couple months to build. So something you all probably want to look into now as well is how do you leverage some of those low-code, no-code solutions. All right, and lastly, I think I'm getting close to time here, is I want to talk a little about what a center of excellence means in the realm of data and analytics, and honestly around any technology. So what we find is when we go to a client, oftentimes what we're promoting as a solution is emerging in a new technology for them. They currently may not have it approved in their environment or in their network, or they may have it approved but it doesn't have much user adoption. So in order to really be able to scale the adoption of this on an enterprise-wide level, you can't just build it and say, all right, I built you this project tracker, use it. Good luck. You're going to have a failed project. Oftentimes, we have to work very closely with change management activities, communication, really closely with stakeholders to identify these requirements. And as you start to get more and more traction and people are saying, oh, wait, that department has this tool, I want this tool too. And oh, wait, that department's using Power Platform, why can't I use it too? You start to have IT get really overwhelmed with all of these requests and how to manage governance around the technology and the way it's being implemented, especially in the government when there's, again, a lot of sensitive information and sensitive projects in general. So we recommend standing up a center of excellence, which helps work the integration between people, process, and technology. And this really standardizes the way that this technology is being used across your organization or across the agency. And so it's a really great way to make sure that you have a solutions repository so people can see what's being built. There's trainings that are created so that people can start to leverage the technology if they want to. And that also you're working very closely with security and IT to make sure that the architecture is needed there to support scalability and that we're compliant with existing processes, protocols, and procedures that these organizations insist that we follow. So it's not just about using the technology and building a solution, but it's also how you govern that solution and that capability. So we've definitely seen an increased desire for us to build these centers of excellence regardless of the capability that we are deploying. All right, and I think that's it. I think I'm 1 minute over. So any questions? Oh, absolutely. And that actually goes to inferential as well. So sometimes when they even have to build their analytics and present them in front of Congress or any type of political presentation, we are often brought in to advance their solution or the analytics that are being derived so that they can better have a case when they do present to Congress to influence public decision. So that's the way our lens is from like an analytics perspective. We'll actually provide a more in-depth analysis so that they have a strong case when they actually present it to Congress. But outside of just our analytics team, we also have an entire management consulting firm. So they work very closely with a lot of agencies to work on how do we create public policy in general, right? So we might be on the team and we might be using data to help them, but then you also have management consultant analysts that will work really closely to create the policy itself with the agencies. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'll just close with really, I know consulting can be stressful or competitive at times. I'll say it's been an absolute amazing experience for me. It really does keep you engaging. You have so many different projects, so many different domains to serve, and it's a great place to start when you're really trying to figure out what you're interested in. I came from an information systems background, so initially I was doing more like database stuff, and now I'm doing AI, ML, automation, and really I don't know that I would have known or gotten here today if I didn't have consulting in my life, because it just allowed me to touch so many different areas, so many different projects, and so many different clients. Some good, some not so good. You definitely have to deal with difficult clients, but that's anywhere you go. So if you have any questions at all about how to get into consulting or what that means, please feel free to reach out. Happy. We also are always constantly recruiting. I know I'm putting in a plug, but we are also recruiting all the time. I mean, like I said, our team, when I started, my team, our team was like 30, 40 people. We now have 160 people. So it's like, and like I said, the firm grew exponentially. So we're constantly recruiting and hiring. Every consulting company is. So if you're interested, let me know, and I'm happy to take your resume. All right.